Welcome to this Infosecurity Europe podcast.
My name is Amar Singh, also known as the guy who wears the blue turban. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Cyber Management Alliance along with my colleague, Balroy. At Cyber Management Alliance, we build, improve, and optimize your entire cyber incident response capability to enable your organization to more accurately detect cyber intruders and rapidly respond to business impacting cyber attacks. But myself, I do a varying degree of things in the company. We are trusted advisors in cyber security, in cyber crisis management. I still get my hands dirty, if that's the best way to put it. I'm still a practitioner advising different companies, different people, different clients on cyber resilience. I try not to say cybersecurity. Cybersecurity can mean more technical. I'm more on cyber resilience, which is also the business side of every business. What excites me about being a CEO and a CISO, Chief Information Security Officer for many organizations. On the CEO front, I think it's really exciting time to be in cyberspace, to be driving innovation, to be leading the pack in cyber crisis management, to coming up with different approaches and innovative approaches to making sure that organizations can recover from a cyber attack. In addition to that, every day, every minute, dare I say, is different in cyber. And that's what keeps not just me, but the whole organization excited, in terms of excited to solve challenges, to train people up, to help organizations become more cyber resilient. How did I get into cybersecurity? I come from a business family, originally from Singapore. I've got a mixed accent. I speak Thai, I read and write Thai out of all the languages. I lived in Bangkok for many years. I'm originally from Singapore, and my family moved over there about 150 years ago. That doesn't make me 150, by the way, for those of you wondering, how old is Amar? And I speak additional languages, Japanese, Hindi, Punjabi. But what got me into this is, although I come from a business background, is my constant desire to hack, if I may, to find weaknesses in procedures and process. And I think that fire does exist in many other people. It just needs to be lit, if I may. It needs to be given the oxygen. And I was lucky enough, my mother, my uncle supported me. I got into IT. I'm a rogue member of the business. I moved away from the traditional business of trading, of trading in textiles and electronics and other business stuff, and got into IT, became an employee, did a lot of stuff in very technical stuff, got my hands dirty in networking, in security, in Windows, in Linux. And then that business kind of acumen took over. I'm into management now, and then I started my own company. But I still absolutely love technology. I think the next several years, decades, if I may, belong to technology. Climbing up the ladder, to me, it's about passion. Even joining information security, cybersecurity, joining any role, it's about passion. When I interview people, I'm not necessarily looking for certificates. There are 500 certificates or more you can apply today. I'm looking for passion. I tell this to my children. I got married young, for the record. I tell this to my children. Without passion, we are machines. And that's what drives me. And that's what I look for when I'm interviewing anyone or I'm giving any recommendation. If you're passionate about something, there is no career, because that is your career. The moving up metaphor is for those who are specifically looking to move up. But if, in my opinion, dare I say, if you're passionate, you are moving up because you are learning. But in today's world, I think we are absolutely fortunate compared to maybe 100 years ago, even 50 years ago. The opportunity to continue learning uh, is so great, to continue reinventing yourself because technology is changing. And as technology changes, something that may have existed, that may have not existed 10 years ago, exists today. And if you have the passion to learn, you're going to be able to learn that particular topic and start on that journey. Career challenges are interesting because, again, one challenge in technical terms, in technology terms, is technology is changing so rapidly. It's evolving and it's only going to evolve even more. As artificial intelligence, as CPU power becomes exponential, etc. And to keep up with technology, to keep up with the benefits and the downsides of technology, uh, to enable people and myself, but to enable people to learn about different areas of technology is a constant it's a constant challenge. What advice would I give someone trying to get ahead in the industry? The first advice is anyone can do it. You don't have to be a techie, you don't have to be a nerd, you don't have to be of a certain ilk, certain race, certain male or female, whatever and whoever you are, this industry is for you. It actually needs the mix, if I may. If you only have one type of person, that's detrimental to the industry. And it's really good in the UK, but even globally, more and more females and women are getting into cyber because there's so much more to cyber than just configuring a firewall. There's the human element, there's the management element. Yes, it's good if you understand, technology, but absolutely it's for everyone. And what advice would I give? Don't get put off by the sometimes macho, war talk, war games. That's one element. There is much more to it. So embrace it, try it, and I'm sure you will enjoy it. I think the pandemic, we can't run away from the pandemic. The pandemic has established certain things that should have been established some time ago, which is that actually, as long as you deliver, you should be able to work from anywhere. And I call it flexibility, right? Some may call it working from somewhere or home or office. It's not an easy challenge, I think. The downside, if I may, of the pandemic and working from anywhere is the loss of control. Organizations have lost that little control that they had when people were working from one central location. So organizations have to adapt, trust, adapt, and innovate. If you use technology to help you, then, again, dare I say, and some may really love what I'm saying, the 9 to 5 doesn't exist. It could be 9 to 1. I mean, if you can do your job in 3 hours, you can do your job in 3 hours. So the benefits of pandemic are, I think, the establishment of the fact that work can be done remotely, quite a lot of it. And it all depends on how organizations embrace, trust, and innovate with their staff. What more can be done to attract and retain the next gen InfoSec workforce? It's a really good question. My answer is one, it needs to start young. And that has several advantages, which is it helps build national capability. Personally and professionally, I think the United Kingdom and maybe a lot of the West is at a disadvantage today. The overall capability is lacking when you compare them to other nations, especially like the nation state of China or Russia, where they take, and credit to them, this is actually crediting them, they take the education, the introduction of cyber, of programming very seriously. Recently, the Prime Minister of Singapore, it was 3 or 4 years ago, and this is the PM, right? The Prime Minister created a program, a chess program in a programming language. Now, what does that tell you? That tells you my leader is is interested in programming. I'm going to be interested in programming, right? Now, the same question I would ask is how many MPs and PMs that we know in the West are technical? The Brexit bill, and I don't want to get political, but the Brexit bill actually talks about Netscape, which is when your and my hair was much blacker and younger, we were using Netscape. And that bill today, someone had the stupidity, dare I say, and the audacity to put in a reference to a software that no longer exists. What does that tell you about the national attitude towards technology? Now imagine that attitude of the national attitude towards technology that mentions old software in regulatory bills. How is that nation now going to build up its own capability? And that's what really worries me because, dare I say, and it may have industrial connotations, but it's a pipeline. You simply can't pick up a child and go, you are now Infosec. That individual, that girl or guy or boy has to be trained, has to have that inspiration from when they are young, of tinkering, of hacking, of building stuff. And if you don't put that in when they are young, if you tell them it's okay, if you don't inspire them and show them the power of programming and robotics and all of those cool stuff, then by the time they're 16 or 18, it becomes a bit more difficult because their brain and their whole things are established for other stuff. And it's really sad because there is a skills gap, and that skills gap is not necessarily outside, but it's the fact that many are entrusted, but many organizations may not be entrusted to retrain people. That's another angle to look at it, right? Instead of looking out, why don't you look in? Why don't you make it attractive, saying, listen, we will train you. You don't have to know how to program, but you know what? You can do, these are the domains you can look at. So there's quite a lot that can be done. One is national pipeline. Two is for organizations to actually look inward for mentors, or outward for mentors, but to actually mentor in people inside the organization who are there, who may have all the necessary attributes, except for that they have never worked in cyber. And one example is the whole ridiculous attitude towards employing people. They want 15 years of experience of a technology that has only existed for 6 years. How do you square that circle? The next big thing for the next many years is going to be a multitude of things, if I may, very briefly. One is how quickly are organizations going to be able to detect and respond to cyber attacks. Now, it may sound very normal, but the reality is the velocity of attacks, the ferociousness of the impact to businesses is only going to increase. Why do I say this? It's pretty obvious. The CPU power is increasing exponentially. And as we said, the pandemic has established digital remote working, which increases the attack surface. Everyone is now digital. Even those who have never been digital are now going digital. Health is going digital. Things on the internet or IoT is going completely digital. The whole house is going digital, which increases the attack surface. What's big is actually organizations need to ask themselves, are they breach ready? It's a very simple question, and it's applicable for the next 5 to 10 years or more. And the example I give, imagine all of us on a plane flying at 35,000 feet, and our plane is hacked by a cyber criminal. Now, there's only one way, and that's down. Now, if we want to survive, we've got to have technology, process, procedures, automation to detect that attack in 2 minutes and maybe respond in 3 or 4 minutes. That leaves about 7 minutes, which means we may be at 5,000 feet. But at least we will hopefully survive. And I think that a kind of gives an example of what to expect in the future. If nation states, if organizations don't start preparing and laying the foundation for breach readiness, for detection of cyber attacks, and for response to cyber attacks to be rapid, to be quick, then sadly, and I'm sounding a little bit negative here, but sadly in the future, it may impact human life on a large scale. And what we all need to do as citizens, as nation states, as governments, is we need to lay the foundation for Internet of Things so that they don't end up destroying human life because of maybe a kid or a teenager or a criminal gang hitting a button that stops 50,000 cars in their track whilst they are zooming around the road. The next big thing, in addition to what I've said, although it should be big now, but I think as more and more people mature, as the younger generation starts to demand privacy, hopefully, we can always be positive about that, organizations will have to step up and demonstrate that they care about my privacy rather than belligerently abusing my data. I am positive and I'm hopeful that the younger generation, as they get into the workforce, as they start demanding privacy of their information. So although it's not a big thing, but I hope it does become mainstream in the next many, many years, where individuals take responsibility and then force organizations to take more responsibility on how they process and share data. Who inspired me and inspires me? To be honest with you, I was very inspired by my mother, and also my uncle, who decades ago, I'm now about 43, 44, who when I was 10 actually started making computers, believe it or not. And that's what got me into cyber, into IT, into programming a little. So my uncle's been an inspiration, my mom obviously, but today, I'll be absolutely honest, it is impossible to name one person. It is everyone that I'm connected to. Infosec, obviously InfoSecurity. The conference is an inspiration because that's where you look forward to, not in the pandemic, obviously, but when it was non-pandemic, it was an absolutely almost a religious event that you wanted to go to and meet up with everybody who inspires you. The younger generation inspires me. My existing LinkedIn connections, hello to everyone. Everyone is an inspiration. And I think this attitude of constantly learning should be one of the cornerstones of IT and cyber.
Thank you for listening to this InfoSecurity Europe podcast.